What's going on, everybody? This is Damien Jaxxyn with the Midnight Drive. Joining me today, I got Sam of House Lights. How you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to talk. And I know you had a somewhat busy day today, yeah,
All good.
but glad we can make it. Also, with these time zone things,
Yeah.
I should have remembered because I've interviewed another band out of like New Hampshire, and I
Well,
should
yeah, I saw you just spoke with Anaria recently,
yeah
right?
yeah
Yeah.
you know them?
I so in my somehow in the free time that I have, which is not much, but in in my free time, I love music. I love helping the scene. So we just had them on a show. I'm
Mm.
booking out of the Shaskeen Pub and Tavern in Manchester with Kinetic City Events. My buddy Aaron runs that, and we just had Anaria play this past Saturday.
Nice.
They absolutely killed it. They're phenomenal. So I saw them. I saw them on your grid there. I was like, oh, nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So shout
they
out
were
to them.
yeah, they were a very fun interview, just like I know this is gonna be.
I hope
So
so.
so as usual, I have my list of questions, but I'm not just gonna go off these 10 questions. There'll be some questions in between that'll just come naturally, like an interview does. I don't know why I'm always explaining what an interview is every time I do this, but let's get into it.
Sounds good.
How long have you been doing music?
Yeah, really since high school. I think, sort of 15, 16, started messing around with some friends. Had briefly was in like sort of like a grunge, very just Nirvana-esque inspired, band. We didn't really do much. I think we practiced a couple times, didn't really do much. Um, but then, developed some more friends. Had a couple bands when I was younger, and one of them, when I ended up going to college, is where I met Matt Laramie, who is the guitarist for House Lights. And we formed a band called Horns Become Halos. And the cool thing about that is when we did the Stages EP back in 2014, that was our first official release as House Lights. We actually had the other previous guitarist, Bobby Spence. He did all the screams on that project, and he actually did the screams for our most recent full album as well, What It Means to Feel, that we released in 2023.
Mm.
And Adam, our original drummer from Horns Become Halos, actually did all the drums for that album. So it's been really cool that, while we're not in Horns Become Halos anymore, Matt and I have continued on doing music together, and to be able to pull the other guys in and kind of keep those vibes going and those relationships going, it's been really fun. So they're both super talented guys. Bobby has a band called Hotel Graffiti. Go check them out. They're really sick. They should have some new releases this year. And then our former drummer, as I said, Adam Susi, he's basically a session drummer, plays around with a ton of bands in the Boston area. So give those guys some love. They're amazing musicians.
Hell yeah, but check them out. Maybe try to even get them on here for an interview.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so you say you started like 15, 16. What made you want to, get in, like make you want to start a band?
Yeah. So really, it was just kind of, the people that were around me. I had somebody that played guitar and somebody that played drums, and they're like, "Hey, we need a bassist." So I'm like, "Okay, I guess." Um, and I guess I should maybe back up a little bit. I think I was like 11, and I had my parents
Hmm.
buy me a drum set. But I do not have any coordination, hands and feet. They don't talk to each other. So I would make a terrible drummer. I kind of messed around with it for maybe a few months, and then didn't really do anything with it. And then it wasn't until a handful of years later that I picked up the bass. Took some lessons, got some training on it, and did that when we started Horns Become Halos back in 2007, 2008. I think is when Matt and I first met. I was the original bassist for that band, and then sort of took over, moved from bassist to doing bass and backing vocals, and then from that to doing lead vocals and screams as well. And then, that was kind of where we had gotten in our final iteration as horns. We played until about 2011. I think 2012, somewhere around there is when we broke up from that project. But luckily got back into it a few years later. And we the Stages EP was fun because that was one uh, we kind of reestablishing the relationship. We didn't have the most amicable breakup as Horns Become Halos, and it was kind of outside factors, kind of inside factors too. I can delve into that a little bit more as we go here, but yeah. So for 2014 was just, hey, we can do one. We got it out there. It was a concept album around the 5 stages of grief, and we didn't really promote
Uh,
heavily, but it was more of one of our projects. Something that just so that was a lot of fun. And then years, I
you kind of broke
don't know
up
if I'm
there a
having
little
some
bit.
issues with my connection or if it's okay. Hopefully this will calm down. But yeah, so we took 2014. That was it, and then we kind of just did the life thing for a while until 2022 when Matt reached back out, and now the rest is becoming history, and that was the lead up to the first album we released back in 2023. So
I've gone back and listened to like your discography. I've listened to that Horns Become Halos and stuff like that. And even like the progression and like evolution of you guys' sound is incredible. But going back, like you say, you started off as being the bassist and then going up to being
yeah, it's
just backing vocals to lead. How did how was that like? Especially because you talk about doing like were you doing a lot of the screams and stuff too?
yeah. So originally Matt was doing all the vocals. So he is the main guitarist in the project now. He pretty much composes and writes 95 to 100% of the music. He just has an incredible knack for writing. Soundscapes that really mesh with me emotionally. And so I'm able to hear something from him. He'll send something over, and I can almost immediately, within the first 10 seconds or so, I'll get an emotion or a theme or something will come to mind that will spark a lyric or a melody. And then so I'll just build off of that and kind of riff on whatever his music made me feel. So back when we met in Horns, he already he had all the music. He was kind of doing the main vocal, and we were like providing the support so that he could play those songs out and develop them, into a full band experience. And as I got more confident, with my singing ability, then we kind of wanted to add a little bit of a harder edge into things, and that was really the heyday of the local hardcore scene. So it was a bit infectious. You couldn't really help getting away from that and wanting to go up there and just be super heavy and like screaming and all that stuff. So I started working on that and found out that I could do that somewhat as well. And yeah, like you said, I go back and listen to that stuff decently often too because it's fun to see that progression and like man, like I used to be awful or like okay, I was what I mean? I give myself more grace nowadays than I used to.
I mean, from what
When
I've heard, like it is really good. Like, and I also, anytime I do these interviews, I don't want to come off as like I don't want to say like the fake fan or
oh no, yeah,
like not knowing the history of stuff, but like I want to be able to listen through everything. And like every band like progresses. Everybody gets like a new
yeah,
sound or stuff like that. Like when you start off with something small, when you say you're like 15, 16, and then you get older, like you're gonna have more money for like sound and mastering and stuff like that. So
yeah, yeah, and technology has caught up a lot. I mean,
yeah,
you can do amazing things, and that's we do all our stuff self-recorded, self-produced at the moment. The only thing that we don't really do is mastering, and we have a really amazing guy that we're able to find that helping us with that. And then that allowed us this year to kind of for the upcoming EP, we're having him help us with some production elements on the album. We'll send him what we think is the final song, and he's kind of coming back and going, "Hey, what about if you had these, elements in it, or if the song structure was this, or whatever." So it's kind of fun to be able to build on that process, and we needed somebody kind of outside of give us a more objective perspective. When it's just you get so close to the material. It's hard to step back and go, is this what's right for the song, or does it need to change? So that's been a fun process, and I'm excited for everybody to hear what we've got coming out, because the we're really excited about the EP. I think it's gonna blow a lot of people away. So
Hell yeah. What speaking on that, like you released a new song last month called Heaven Fall. I'm guessing that's one of the songs going to be on the EP.
yep. So we've released two singles so far. Forget You was back in February.
Mhm.
And then Heaven Fall was the second follow up. And that was really fun for us because, Forget You was definitely a more of an evolution on that classic sound that, we're developing. That's the core of our music. But Heaven Fall was, kind of Matt and I mean, most of the guys in the band, but Matt and I are especially heavily influenced by Linkin Park and a lot of the, mid to late 2000s new metal bands.
Oh yeah.
So to be able to kind of flex that muscle a little bit and do something different was super fun. And then getting our buddy Animatronic to come on the track, and we basically, I had written verses and choruses for the full song, but we sent him the track with just the choruses. And what he did, like, just completely blew what I wrote out of the water. Like, wasn't even close. That's his realm. I'm certainly not a rapper. I'm not a hip hop artist or anything like that. So having him come in and just absolutely, came up with the perfect melodies, the perfect phrasing, and he really understood the subject matter that we were trying to, emphasize with the music. So it's cool to show that dynamic. And I think what we have done with the new EP is evolved our sound a little bit. Again, to capture a broad variety of range. So it's going to show people a lot of our, ability to kind of go in and out of different genres and stuff, while also retaining that core sound that people are used to. So I'm definitely very excited for people to hear it.
I'm excited for when it drops. I think your camera just like
Yeah, it's frozen. Let me try to jog it real quick here.
there we
There
go.
we go. I'm back.
But yeah, I could definitely hear it in you guys' music that it is very influenced with that like mid to late 90s to like early 2000s like rock, like the new metal which was coming out at
Yeah.
the time. You talked about Linkin Park being like a big influence on the EP. Who have been some of your other influences? I know you talked about Nirvana, but who else would be like in that vein? Because
Yeah.
I can kind of hear a few like notes of things when I've listened to the music.
Yeah, and I'd be interested after who some of the ones you think. It's always fun hearing who people relate us to. I mean, again, obviously, we grew up Warped Tour era. So that's the hugest part of our formative years. I remember going back in the day. I went to luckily I got to go to a handful of years when it was still good before the 2010s, and it started turning over and people were sick of it. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me and Matt, like a lot of our influences, Alexis on Fire is a huge one. Thursday, I the Used, Taking Back Sunday, like the Census Fail. I
That was
know is
one of
another big.
them. That was one of
Yeah,
them I could hear.
yeah. We got a lot of the alternating melodies and sort of having two different vocals going on at the same time. Like a lot of that stuff definitely comes from, bands like Taking Back Sunday and Brand New, and, just anybody from that sort of emo, screamo genre that was doing that kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's definitely instilled in us. And Thursday, like we have a good amount of songs. Like I keep liking to sneak, spoken word parts into songs and stuff. That's it. Just for me, it's an emotion that hits every once in a while. We need to emphasize something, and so yeah, those are probably be the main handful that I would say. Thrice would be another one.
I get a
So
lot of Thrice. It's a lot.
yeah,
I got to get into Thrice because I
oh,
don't think.
they're so good. That's another band that there are some foundational bands that their sound is the same pretty much throughout. Thrice is one of those bands that they started out heavier thrash punk type stuff underground, and they evolved so much, and they've done so many different things, over the course of their career. So it's like them, Coheed and Cambria would be another great example of just they keep evolving the sound. It still has that, what you want from it. There's
Yeah,
always that groove. There's always Claudio's, incredible vocals. The lore that they've built out is there, but
yeah,
they'll continuously, pop in and out of different genres. They'll go more metal and heavy, or they'll go more emo and kind of light acoustic. So a lot of jazz inspiration in their music. So
yeah. Like going into more Coheed, like they like they did Jesse's Girl like part two or something, and it's
yeah,
like that weird like pop like a synth, but still like rock. I'm like, how does this work?
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, or like Number City, where they kind of do that same thing.
yep,
And it's like, how do y'all make this work? But his voice is just like I don't know. It is crazy how they can do what they do. Because yeah, they were very like more like hard rock with stuff, and then now I don't know if it's like them getting older, want to do different stuff and go to like different crowds. But yeah, it's a subtle change when it comes to certain things, but it still has that rock undertone that you would.
yeah, yeah. You still know it's Coheed. No matter what, you're
I
like,
mean,
yep,
you can't
that's
miss that voice.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that and the groove. Those are the two
Yeah,
things. Their songs always they have that bouncy, they're driving you towards something. Or even on the lighter songs, it just the melodies are so beautiful. You can melt into the song and kind of forget where
yeah.
you are. So
That makes me think of like System of a Down too, because
yeah,
that same thing where like they'll have like those slow songs, but it's still them. Like
yeah,
whether it's hard pounding song or like those like slow ballads, it's still like their sound and it's
yeah.
still what you want.
Yeah, that's something that we strive for in all of our music. We want to push boundaries. We want to, have fun within the music and show ourselves that we can do different things, and we don't need to be afraid to kind of branch out. But at the end of the day, it's still going to sound like us. You know, so I think
Oh
if
yeah.
we combine those things and people are enjoying it, then we're doing what we set out to do.
Yeah, that's definitely a positive when it comes to like music process because you don't want to just keep giving out the same thing because then it's just
Right.
like, all right, well, what else you got? Because then
Yeah.
it makes not just your fans, but it kind of makes you feel like you're just doing a one note thing. And when you can like combine, like you talk about like if you can do like mix in some like jazz and then still have like the rock under, like keep that rock foundation, but add like different pieces to it and
Yeah.
still make it your own. I think a lot of people will appreciate it.
Yeah.
Especially I've had this conversation with a lot of the people that I've done the interviews where we are kind of in that realm right now where there is a lot of like copycat or like the cookie cutter of just like I'm just gonna put out this music because it sounds like this person, whatever,
Yeah.
and not really try to like make it your own. It is very refreshing to like know bands and artists who are like trying to do something that is different,
Yeah.
but it still is an amazing sound because it's you taking a chance. It's not just like oh, I don't want to, rock the boat or anything like that. I'm just going to stick to this specific thing. It's like, no, it is really, really great that there are people out there who still want to write and still want to create something that people at first may not want to hear or like is a certain sound that they've never heard before, or it kind of hits that nostalgia bone, but in a different way. Like I said, you guys listen to like mid to late 90s and early 2000s, like you said, the Warp Tour, or since I'm from Chicago, the Lollapalooza,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and you can definitely hear it in that. Like I grew up listening to alternative rock and stuff like that, and a lot of it you can hear in the music. And so when people hear it, it's like, oh, this reminds me of, like you said, Taking Back Sunday or like Red Jumpsuit Apparatus or Symphony.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Then again, it's always fun to like, after we play a set or rolling up to a show or just seeing people, out at a bar or something, and the oh yeah, you guys remind me of this band or this, and I'm like, I might not think it's the most accurate or like it's the most fitting, but I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's cool. You know what I mean? Like it's always
Yeah.
fun to hear because then it gives you a little bit something else to think about. You're like, music is subjective to a lot of people. So, we're well aware that not everybody's going to like us. We're not
Mm.
everybody's cup of tea. But as long as we can, stay true to kind of what we want the messaging of the music to be, and it feels right to us, people liking it and enjoying it coming to shows is the bonus. You know, so we really appreciate everybody that comes out and that supports us and listens to our music. It really means a lot.
Well, yeah, you definitely got a listener out of me, man. Like for sure. I'm gonna be looking for the EP when it comes out.
Yeah, not much longer, under a month now. So,
Hell yeah. What have been some of the highs and lows that you've experienced being in a band?
well, so this will get us into that Horns Come Halos breakup story. So, I won't fully, kind of name who we worked with. We've told some people, more local to us and kind of in our circle, whatever. I'm happy to tell people in person. I don't want to be, putting it online because this person is still in business. But
Mm,
we had an opportunity back in the day to, travel to record with a very well known producer that was, kind of getting things started at the time. But we were young and we thought we were ready for this big blow up. Oh, this is our chance. We're gonna make it. And so we went into this opportunity not ready. We didn't have things on our end fully kind of figured out. There
mm,
was still a little bit of internal struggle between Matt and I, where I was getting more confident with my vocal ability and wanting to push that more and wanting to kind of become jump into that full lead vocal role. um, and I was allowing that to kind of get in the way, and it was really, my ego was getting the best of me for sure. I was like 21 when this happened, and so young, dumb, oh me, like this is what I want, so this is what's going to happen. And it's really unfortunate that it was exacerbated by the environment. So we went to work with this person first couple days, found they were not in the best sort of mental state. They then left 2 days into recording. They left us to go work with another band that they got paid to co-write with. Basically, flew away to the other side of the country, left us in the studio with the recording assistant that had never met us before, didn't know what we were there for. So we ended up recording about 6 or 7 songs ourselves uh, over the next week and a half. Um, and again, we never finished. That was going to be Horn's second album, and we never finished it because we just weren't ready. The songs weren't ready. We didn't have what we needed prepared, and so it was. While it's was really crappy in the moment and difficult to deal with, it was a good lesson for us, and we took a couple of years off, didn't really have much contact at all. And then, back in 2014, Matt and I just kind of started talking again. And because we missed the writing process, we missed working together. When you have that relationship with someone where, they write music that you know how to write lyrics to, or that you get immediate emotional feeling from, it's hard to give that up. And we still wanted music to be a big part of our lives. So we came out with that, the EP, Stages EP. Like I said, we didn't really promote it too much because, we were at the point where it was just proving to ourselves that we still had it. We could still, use those muscles and, go through the writing process and work together. And then it was fun to see it come out. We enjoyed it, but then again we went back to life. We were early 20s trying to figure out where we wanted to go. We were both in committed relationships, kind of figuring out the family thing, or career and all that. So that's why it took so long before we got back to making music again. And it was again that same thing. Like we didn't really talk too much in between, but after 9 years, that connection was still there. And early 22, I think Matt reached out and was like, "Hey, I've got a bunch of he never stopped writing, which is
Mm.
the crazy thing about it. He can't turn it off. Like I've never seen anybody, as prolific. He's like a robot. We joke and we call him the robot because he'll be up till like 2, 3 in the morning, and he'll send us something in the group chat. Hey, I just wrote finished writing this. We're all sleeping. We're like, we get it
Yeah.
next morning. We're like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you up so late? But yeah, it's incredible his ability to just crank out music. And it's all, for the most part, there's some stuff that needs a little editing or maybe we don't get to it, but for the most part, the core ideas of what he has are just immediately like, yep, okay, maybe we lose this little bit or we change up the this pre-chorus or whatever, but it's almost always like just, yep, we that sounds great. I'll start writing lyrics to it, and then boom, we're tracking and kind of putting the finishing touches on it. But um, so it's been a long set of years, but I would say that I probably have, now that I've had time and perspective to kind of look back and understand like what we did wrong and where I want the music to go and what I want out of it personally now. I've got more fire than ever. I know Matt does. We're both pushing on this thing as much as we can, and really giving it, one last good shot, if you will,
Yeah.
to try to get somewhere with it. And I think we're on the right track. We're starting to build a lot of momentum, and this year I think is going to be really big to determine where we go in the future. So
Yeah. Going back to you talking about Matt, with his like him sitting his stuff at like 2, 3 in the morning. You say it was like 2022 when you guys like got back together. I mean,
yep,
that's like coming right off of COVID. So more than likely,
yeah.
he spent those like 2 years just like like prime Kanye, just locked himself in there, just like writing lyrics and stuff.
Yeah, oh for sure. I mean there wasn't much to do. And it definitely hit me hard. I would say I still haven't fully recovered, socially from that isolation. I still, especially in person, like if we're riffing talking about music, like I'm pretty good on interviews and stuff, but just casual conversation nowadays, like sometimes I'm like, what do I say? Like I kind of I had too much time to sit with like my imposter syndrome and think about how like I'm just a random guy. Like why do people care what I have to say? Why does what I say matter to people? So it's been a little bit of a road, trying to come back from that. And again, the music is my therapy. That's one of my biggest outlets. So having him come in at that time was just like, oh, like this just makes sense. You know what I mean? Um, and he had sort of the soundtrack for what was going on inside my head, and I could interpret those in different ways and apply the emotions to that and talk things out. So a lot of the meaning behind the lyrics and the songs and the emotion is it's stuff that I say to myself, or that I remind myself because it's things that I wish people would have told me at certain points, or guidance, or commiseration, consolation of just, hey, I know you have this going on in your life, but here's some ways to push through it, or here's a way to get your feelings out, or you're not alone. There are people that feel the way that you do. um, and so that's still a huge part of what I want to do, is kind of doing it for myself to be able to give back to other people and understand that there's a lot of other people that feel the way I do. So if I can help them, it helps me, and then everybody can be in a better place.
Oh yeah, man. Like, yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head right there. Like, music to a lot of us is therapy,
Yeah.
and man, I think you're gonna find your crowd who, like I said, feel the same way as you do.
Yeah, we've definitely started. I'm happy that we have a lot of support in the area, a lot of good friends. It's awesome being in the New Hampshire scene and the New England scene as a whole. Because we have a long tradition, a long history. It comes and goes, but there's tons of periods, just even in the few decades of my life, where it's been one of the biggest scenes in the country. A lot of bands come out of the area, and so to be a part of the scene when it's flourishing again. There's so many good bands, so many talented artists out there that are all putting their personal stamp on things. It's really exciting. My favorite thing is when I go out to a show or we play a show or my I do some booking on the side. Like I'll have a show booked and other people from other bands show up. Just like they just want to be there. They just go to support their friends and listen to some awesome music. So trying to be a big part of that up here and keep that going because it's really important. It can be a real struggle, being in a band and as an artist, you don't get a lot of favors. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of hours you got to put in, a lot of sacrifice to be made. So to see other artists come in and spending their time and their money, supporting you is like one of the best feelings you could ever
Hell yeah, man. Uh, you mentioned something and I just completely forgot.
get. No worries. If you think of it, we'll come back to it.
Because it's just I like this because you like talk about it so passionately, and this is
Yeah.
what I love. What like people can talk about music with that much passion. Um, oh, you were talking about booking shows and doing
Hmm.
product. Um, as you know, but before I get into that, I talked to Anaria and I asked them like, is it a big like rock scene out there? I don't know which side of like New Hampshire they're on compared to you, but they were saying like where I guess they're at is not as big. Where you're at is like a big scene, or is it just like more like New England, New Hampshire, and then like wherever else where they just like it's a lot like you said, it's flourishing and it's a lot more bands coming out of the states or like cities and stuff like that, and then you finding them.
Yeah. So I mean they're fairly close. Basically, the main population of New Hampshire is in the southern New Hampshire. Pretty much Concord is the northernmost, and you go south of that, and that's where a lot of the more populated areas are. That's where a lot of the bands are based out of. New Hampshire is still one of the smaller scenes in New England. Just I don't know exactly what it is. It's, at least for the local scene. There's a lot of tribute bands, there's a lot of cover bands, there's a lot of very talented jazz musicians and R&B and folk acts. Some jam bands and folk bands are some of like the biggest draws that you can get up here. So as far as the rock scene, like it's definitely middle of the pack, I would say, as far as popularity. But that middle is very strong. The bands that are in that know for the most part what they want out of it. They are committed to making good music. It's not like we got a bunch of people running around that are just, playing the same three chords over and over and, oh yeah, we'll get paid a couple $100 to, play these same five songs all the time. People are really pushing themselves. And Aria is a great example. They have been around for a long, long time in the scene, and they kind of did a little reboot the last handful of years and have come out with a lot of new music. They've got a lot of stuff that we aspire to that they have in house, where they do a lot of their own digital and photography in house. They've got a real good crew and support system around them, so all their promotional stuff looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Jessica's voice is insane, so like
Yeah.
it gives you like such a leg up if you got somebody that can write good song structure around her voice. This not it's not a huge secret of why they're successful. It's very self-evident. So yeah, I mean, rock is making its way back. There's a lot of other bands that are sort of, I guess the more traditional. There's pockets of each. There's a handful of bands that are in the new metal sort of alt rock, type space. There's a handful of bands that are in the heavy hardcore space. There's some post hardcore. There's a good amount of like folk punk, power pop, traditional punk bands. So you got your pockets, and each one of them has like the top few that are kind of like really pushing the envelope. Excuse me. But overall, we're still a smaller scene. Boston is overall still the biggest just by volume. Worcester's got a really strong scene out. What Western Canada or Western Canada, geez, Western Massachusetts. They've got a big hardcore metalcore That stuff's made a huge comeback. There's a lot of bands that are they're honestly the bands that are getting the most traction right now, that are the most visible, are in the hardcore, deathcore, like spaces you wouldn't expect. But we're in the heyday of metalcore right now. They're with Sleep Token and Spirit Box and Bad Omens, and you name it. They're providing a huge lens on that genre right now. So it's kind of translating down into the local scene. And there's the New England has always been a heavy holdout as far as the main types of music. Like they don't always get the most press or the most, nationwide notoriety, but usually the hardcore shows they're packed out almost every night. Kids are super passionate. It's about family. Everybody that shows up, they have a real strong bond. So that's something that we certainly aspire to kind of build out for our area and our scene. And as long as we work together and keep the same values, sort of on the mind, I think we're going to get there. I like to tell a lot of the other bands, like when I see them at shows and hang out, if one of them is succeeding, like that helps everybody succeed. So we need to jump in and support them, because if they're able to make it out, get signed, they start touring regionally, start touring nationally, they're going to remember who helped them get there.
Yeah.
And then your opportunity might come back. And it's easier to be positive. I don't know. Negativity has become so hard, and so just it takes way too much energy. So I try to stay positive. It's not easy, but that's the only way I know how to be. So
All right, now going back to the promoting, how was that transition of like we got a caller.
no, it's all good. Sorry. I'll get back to it.
Yeah. Uh, how's it going from like are you booking people to be like on your show, or is it just like a separate thing where it's like you booking just a show and then getting bands out there, and then also on top of that, would you want to go from like once you kind of like I guess once it gets towards like when you want to stop like gigging and like getting out the band, would you want to be like a promoter for bands or like even do more?
Yeah, yeah, I always want to do more. I'll start there. But yeah, so when Matt and I started making music again, it was still you couldn't really do a lot of events. That we had lost a lot of venues around the scene. Things obviously shut down, and venues were one of the first places to go, because you can't, the pivot is really hard. Some of the bigger ones were able to kind of, they'd get bands in there, they'd do the, live stream or whatever type of stuff, or they just push through and held events, regardless, because they had the resources to do that. But for a lot of local bands, things dried up quite a bit. And then I had been out of the scene really for, like I said, about 9 years, where I wasn't even really going to local shows. Music was not a huge part of my day to day by any means. So for me, it was a little bit selfish of wanting to figure out, who was in the scene again. So I started my own booking company, Always Forward Productions, in 2023, and I started working with some local area, event halls and other venues to try to get some shows together. Did that for about a year. My buddy Colin, who was in the band The Promise Game, he owned this company, Don't Blink Music Group. They had, you know, almost 2 dozen bands on the roster at one point. They were doing press, they were doing booking for them. So I got brought on with that team, and then towards the end of last year, I made the transition over to Kinetic City Events, which is the company booking out of Shaskeen and Manchester, New Hampshire. Aaron is the guy who runs that. He's got a handful of other venues that he's working with now. So he brought me in to kind of help him with the workload. Music, it's funny because, all my friends, all the people in the, other bands and stuff, they like, how do you have time to do all of this stuff? And
Really?
it's all I think about, to be honest. Music is the only thing that I want to be doing. not there yet, obviously. Still working on a way to monetize my passion and sort of make it, the career. And obviously with the band going now, it's definitely, I'm not doing anything for myself. Working within the company, it's enough of a workload where I can manage it. Um, get a little bit of money back from it that I kind of put towards the band and help our progression to offset costs because everything's so expensive to do. But it's a selfish endeavor that gets to be selfless because I can help other bands get those opportunities. It's been a lot of fun to be able to get your friends who are in incredible bands that I've never met sometimes, that I'm just a fan of. I want to get them on a show because I think people need to hear their music. So we've started getting more bands up from out of state. We just had Gina Fritz up here on that NRA show. We had another one down up back in March. They're a really great pop punk band down from the Rhode Island area. So trying to there's a lot of bands in Boston that we're trying to get up here just to get more ears, more eyes on them, and keep that forward upward progression sort of in the scene, um, and sort of build out a very stable program at the Shaskeen that people can come back to. They know that no matter who's playing, they're going to get a good show. They're going to be entertained. They're going to meet some cool people, and they're going to help the scene. So that's kind of where it came from. So I'm still doing some stuff with Always Forward. I'm trying to transition that more into like media, and more promotion and kind of. I want to do some more educational videos for other bands in the scene and kind of like, cause you see newer bands and they're like, doing some stuff that's not doesn't really benefit them or they
Mm.
might have a misconception about. So I'm trying to, sort of get content built up to be able to get that out and be a little bit of an advisor, to kind of help these newer bands know where to put their time and money, and how to sort of budget that out so they don't get overwhelmed because if it's not sustainable, and this goes for booking, venues, promoters, bands, if it's not a sustainable endeavor, then it's not worth doing, and you need to figure out how to make it sustainable. You can do something amazing for 6 months, but if it's taking all your time and resources, that's it. That's all you got is 6 months. And
Yeah.
most people want to be doing this forever. So it's a
Yeah.
real hard, path to find how to get there. But if I can help people in any small amount, that's what I'm, trying to do on the day to day. So
I mean that's a great goal to do. Like I think me and you both like kind of have this like same philosophy that I have where I'm outside of this because like I said I love music too. There's a reason why I try to do these interviews and also why I host the show that I do. Like I don't get paid for my radio show. It's community radio. But outside of this, my other job, which I try not to mention as much on here, I
yeah.
want to keep things separate, but I am a DJ outside of this.
Mhm.
And I live by this philosophy when it comes to this to where we can all we can all be able to climb this mountain together. It is not a one person has to conquer everything or has to do whatever.
Yeah.
If I make it up, I want to bring other people up there with me. It is, we can all climb the mountain. We can all sit at the table. There's enough food for all of us. It shouldn't just be one person or whatever. You can be at the head of the table, but make sure everybody eats too, whatever like that,
Yeah.
or vice versa. It is not a competition thing, and I know
Right.
there's people who see it as that, and also there is a process and a path for everybody to where somebody might get big faster than somebody else, and it might take you a while. I've been DJing for
Yeah.
6 years. It'll be like 6 years next week, I believe, and I've moving from a different state back to my home state and stuff like that. It has been very much a process of like, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? Like with social media aspects and stuff added
Yeah.
on to it. And so what you are saying is definitely true because there's a lot of different factors where like coming into what you just spend your money on. Like
Yeah.
what you should be doing, like outside of just like practice and trying to make shows, like who you should be talking to and networking and stuff like that. So if you are able to make something to where it will actually help a lot of newer bands or even people who are just trying to like reinvent what they've been doing and trying to get back out there, that is not just a success for you, but it is a success for everybody because they can see that pattern. And even if it
Yep.
takes a while for them to, I don't want to say recreate it, but like get to that point, it is still like a good starting point for a lot of people.
Yep.
And that is basically like that philosophy of everybody can eat and everybody can climb that mountain together,
Yeah.
you know. And also there's a lot of people who, and even myself included on this, where they feel like they kind of got to do it themselves, and it's kind of like hard to ask for help. And
Yeah.
I feel like with this, it is like the perfect amount of because there it's not even asking for help, but it's like, hey, we see what you're doing and we like it, but it's that added extra advice and it's coming from somebody who is actually genuine, not
Mhm.
just being like, hey, you should do this because you're garbage, or oh, hey, this is what you need to do to get successful.
Right.
And then, oh, well, since you got successful, I think you owe me for this. And I think that's a big
Yeah.
thing in a lot of like the music scene where you get the wrong advice from the wrong people and they either want something from you or they're just giving you bad advice.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna guess you had that, coming from, growing up from when you were doing like horns at Halo up to now. Like you've kind of seen like the stuff behind the scenes to help these like newer upcoming bands.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's definitely there are a lot more resources now. The majority of people do legitimately have the better interest. I won't say the best, but the better interest of most of the bands where again it's that sustainable relationship. There what a lot of bands still understand is that there has to be some compromise. It's not just about you. You're not going to, if you want to be successful, you're most likely not going to get everything that you want. You have to be okay with meeting people where they are, whether or not that's, you know, getting $50 instead of $100 at a show, or whether that's, playing to a crowd of 20 people versus 100 people. Like you got to put in some time to do that. You got to be okay when things work out, and don't start playing the blame game. Look at your own stuff first. If you know that your processes are working and that your fans are consistently showing up, that venues are recognizing that and they are rewarding you for it. That is the relationships that should be built. Music has always been a self-regulating industry, and when especially at the local level is when you really can have the most influence. So I'm trying to push people to kind of like, this, get rid of the gatekeeping, get rid of the toxic ideas of, we're better than you, or like you said, that it's a competition. While I think some competition is healthy, it should be constructive. It should be you going, wow, okay, I just played a show and these other three bands had 30 plus people there to see them. I really like their music. Their music's great. It's not what we're doing. It shouldn't be like, why are they getting this? Like, oh, I can't believe people like this. It should be what can I do to match what they're doing? I wish people would see more of like, look internally and go, all right, like, let's not make this about me. What are they doing? How can I do that as well? Instead of pulling people down, like, it doesn't benefit either of you because then you're going to have a negative perception because you're ragging on these other bands that are just trying to have fun and get to where they want their art to go. And you're going to stop getting opportunities because people in the scene see it. Bands will talk to each other. It's not like they stay silent.
Yeah.
Bands will talk to each other. Promoters will talk to each other. If somebody doesn't draw, if somebody's music is not pulling crowds, if they are treating people at the shows poorly, if they're treating other bands poorly, people are going to know and they're going to stop booking you.
Yeah.
So it's in bands' interest to take a look at your processes and make sure that you're at least aware that there should be some compromise. We all have bad days. It's hard to always, you know, take the high road on things. And not there's definitely a time where you can push back if things are not justified or if somebody's trying to treat you the wrong way. But you know, make sure that it's not done from a place of malice. It's not about your ego. It's about growing yourself within the scene. Um, that's what we should all be pushing for. And if I can sort of kind of tread through those pitfalls and give the knowledge back to people. It's like I don't need anything for it because what I get is somebody else's success. You know what I mean? That accomplishment of okay, I told them this thing, I gave them this advice, and they listened, and that's working for them. That's all that I need. That makes me feel, incredibly happy because they're happy, and I helped them get there. Like, so anybody that's out there that's trying to take advantage of local bands. One, they normally don't have any money, so you're dumb for trying to do that. That's not the way to get rich quick. And two, just work together, work together. We're all trying to do the same thing. So leave the negativity, leave the malice, leave all that behind. Pick each other up. Let's have some fun.
Hell yeah. Um, Kind of piggybacking off that, what we were talking about, like different goals bands should have. Have your goals kind of like changed, or have you like kind of like minimalized your list of what you want your goals to be from like year to year? Because, again, going back from when you started a band, I'm pretty sure your goals were like a little bit higher or a little bit more than what you wanted. And then coming from now, restarting the band and getting everything back, have you just like, I will have these set things that I want to do within the next few years? Like what are some of the things that you've done?
Yeah. Obviously the time gives you the perspective. When you're young and college or whatever, you're young,
Hmm.
young in your 20s, you just want everything. You want to take over the world. You think things are going to happen immediately. And the reality is that they don't. You actually have to work for them. So coming back into it, there was definitely, I mean, I'm thinking about it all the time. You ask the other guys in the band. I mean, again, like I said, I pretty much 90% of my mental capacity is spent on music related things, whether it's the band or booking shows for the scene or whatever. Um, you know, I wanted to be sensitive of the situation that we're in. Is we're all none of us are rich by any means. None of us are even comfortable by any means. Um, and our time is very valuable. So even with our band practices and any band meetings we have, the shows that we play, I try to be as intentional as possible to make it worth our time to do it. We're not going out and practicing 3-4 times a week because it's just not for where we're at. That's just not realistic. Would I love to be? Yes, but I can't take people away from the jobs, their lives that often. We all have things we got to take care of. So this year is going to be very, the last couple of years, obviously 22 and 23 were spent kind of writing the music and getting that out there. That was basically just Matt and I, and then we pulled in, like I said, Bobby and Adam to help us record, and we did that whole album ourselves. But we knew to be able to play it, obviously you need a band. So we found some really awesome guys to join us, Ethan, Josh, and our newest drummer, Adam. Not the original one, different Adam. Equally as incredible of a musician, and we're really happy we found him. So 2024, we started playing shows out. We did, I think, 9 shows last year. And we went through 3 different drummers. So that was also, a bit of a difficulty, but we were able to get our name out, show ourselves that we could do it and that we still had fun doing it. And we came into 25 kind of locked and loaded. We got tons of material. We already have, we played 9 shows last year. I think we have 9 already in the first half of this year. So I got to start working on our shows for the second half of the year. Coming up pretty soon.
Yeah,
But
summer's getting here pretty soon,
yeah,
man. Got to play
I
those
yeah,
outside venues.
I wouldn't be surprised if we hit 20 shows this year. That's a real possibility. Um, but again, it's being intentional. When I look to do these shows, I'm trying to make sure that I plan them, in areas that are not right next to each other. You
Mm,
don't want to be playing the same areas. Play Manchester every 2 weeks at a different venue. Like you're not going to get the turnout that you want.
yeah,
You got to give people a reason to go, and sometimes that reason is time. Like hey, we're not going to be back for a couple months, so when we come back, if you want to see us, boom, you know that to be there. Otherwise, you're not going to see us for another couple months. So I pay a lot of attention to um, you know where we play. I pay a lot of attention to other bands that I think our fans will enjoy, and I think the other band's fans will enjoy us. That's one thing that I like to try to do is kind of construct a show where I love mixed bills. They're a lot of fun, but they're not always the most effective for building your audience because usually fans are just going there to see one band
yeah.
on those kinds of bills. Whether it's because they don't like the genres that are the other bands are, or they just that's oh, I'm in, this is all I can do, this is all I like. So those are some ways that I try to be very purposeful and very intentional with our efforts. Right now we're trying to get the EP finished up for release, and we want to do some new merch runs. So we're kind of trying to hash out what our best value is going to be. We know we want some physical merch. I don't want to do just the run of the mill kind of like. I don't want to solely do run of the mill kind of classic, band logo tees and album art stuff like that. Like we're gonna have some of that coming out, but I'm really pushing to get some more unique designs.
Mm.
That'll be a little bit more limited to specific things, specific songs that we do, or a bit more limited runs of stuff. Um, to really give people some cool, unique items and make people like provide value to the fans that we have and that we want to gain.
Yeah. When you gotta start doing merch, please make hats. Please make.
Yeah, yeah,
I will buy as many hats as y'all put out there. I will pay an absorbent amount. Everybody who listens to these interviews and my shows or my like live streams or whatever, I've literally said on there before, I will pay an absorbent amount
yeah.
for a hat. I already spend money on hats when I gotta go to lids. Like I got a hat right here. I got my Memphis Grizzly hat. It's
Nice.
34.99. I got I got my swerve hat that I got from an AEW show. This was like 45 dollars. So yeah, I will pay. I have my Inimical Drive hat that is somewhere. I don't remember, but I got that from a show over at Canopy Club when I interviewed them. That was
Nice.
45 bucks. I will pay
Yeah.
money for a hat. I love shirts. Like I should buy more band shirts and stuff like that, but I wear a hat almost constantly. I'm not wearing one right now,
Yeah.
but I am usually, depending on the day, actually not even been on the day, I am usually have a hat on my head. You probably shouldn't wear hats as much, but I'm just like when I'm at work or whatever, I'm usually wearing a hat. If I'm going out somewhere, I'm putting on a hat. And it gets
Yep.
this when it gets cold out, got the beanie on. So yeah, you can get me twice. You can have me
Yeah, yeah.
you got me set up for the winter time, well, for the fall and winter time, and then got me looking fresh for the spring and summer.
Yeah, man. Hey, if it's comfortable, it's a good statement piece, something to accessorize, pull everything together.
Uh,
I feel that, dude. So yeah, no, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that we want to do. But again, that stuff costs money. So we're trying to figure out, it's probably going to be some balance between like online versus physical. Some of the more unique pieces are going to be, we're not going to be able to source them from an e-store because they just don't do, they do basic.
yeah,
So we're trying to find that balance, and we know that that's one of the things we really need to focus on. Um, if we're going to continue to be able to fund the projects ourselves. Like
yeah,
I'm very happy that so far, for the most part, we've been able to fund the newest EP from all the shows that we played. The money we made at shows last year. We haven't really had to spend any of our own money on promotion or on opportunities or on recording. That stuff has all been self-funded through the band so far. So well, we're not certainly not making, anything to take away, or at least not losing on what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, outside of the band and promotion work and stuff like that, what are you doing in your free time?
Oh yeah, when I'm not thinking about music, usually my wife and I like to go out to eat, like good cocktails, good food. Being on the seacoast of New Hampshire, there's a lot of opportunities for that, a lot of good places. So we like to go and enjoy that. Um, I like to go to other shows. I haven't been to as many this year just because we've been playing and got a lot of different things going on. Um, but definitely trying to get out to a lot more local shows. That's always a big point. Give them some promotion, give them some support. I like to on my off days. I like to work out. Like to get up, get to the gym, kind of get my mind right start of the day, so I can don't have anything left over, any negative thoughts or any thing kind of get in the way of my productivity.
Are
Um,
you like a big heavy lifter? Or you just like like
um, yes and no. I mean, I'm like five. If I'm lucky, I'm 5'5", and I'm 155. So it's not like I'm not doing anything crazy. But I'm working on my baselines. Bench press, deadlift, squats, leg press, kind of building all that up. So I like to do that. But I've also been, for a lot of my life, I've been a runner. So I still like to, I don't get it in as much as I used to. But I'll still try to get like 3 to 5 miles every once in a while on the days that I'm lifting. I'm also doing, a good half hour, 45 minutes cardio as well. Trying to balance it out, make sure that I stay, rounded. Um,
now you say you used to be a runner. Are you like a going outside and like running like just all on the street, or are you just doing treadmill? I know
yeah, both.
because
The
I know it's a whole thing of like concrete like ruins like your knees and legs and stuff like that. I noticed for like a lot of people who do like marathons, I think they've said.
Yeah, yeah, it can. I mean, I would hope at the volume I'm doing it doesn't. And so far I haven't had any issues, and hopefully the work that I'm doing in the gym can continue to help, strengthen the muscles around the knees so that that's not an issue. Um, but yeah, like in the winters are hard up here, especially where I live. I live right basically in downtown of a city up here, and they do a terrible job of keeping the sidewalks clear.
Oh,
Um,
same.
so, so I have done it before. Like it's not the cold that keeps me from doing it. I just don't feel like falling and breaking something or slipping in the road
Hmm.
and getting hit by a car. Like I'm not about that.
Yeah.
So luckily I got a gym right behind my house. So I'll go there in the winters, and then once the weather gets nice, like it's just about doing now, I'll
Yeah.
start getting back outside. Because I definitely prefer road or trail running, to treadmill. It's a whole different ball game.
So
So.
speaking of weather, because it seems like I think we get in like the same kind of cold and stuff.
Mhm.
What like how cold does it get there like the winter time? And I'm gonna guess you get like a significant amount of snow.
Yeah, it's been weird the last probably 6 to 8 years, really, where we've
Mm,
gotten overall less snow.
yeah.
It started transitioning to later in the year, so like, we probably have not seen our last snow this year. Honestly,
Mm.
we just had a storm a few weeks back, or actually, we got snow last weekend.
Oh
Um,
wow.
we got a little flurry. We probably had 2, 3 inches. I mean, it was all gone after a couple days because it was raining and it warmed up again. But it's not unheard of for us to have snow in May out here. Like that's happened a few times and it's becoming more frequent. Um, and then a few years ago, like overall, I mean, it gets cold, not like lakes cold. I don't want to go. I don't want to be in Buffalo, New York, or anywhere by the Great Lakes in the wintertime. But we have our periods where it'll get into, it's gotten into negative double digits for a couple weeks. So nothing to to bat an eye at for sure.
No, I'm right there with you, man. We hit those negative double digits here before.
Yeah,
We're we aren't getting as big of a snowfall as what we
yeah.
used to get. We got blizzards and stuff like that before, but it is kind of like we used to get it around November, and then now it's starting to be like a more like late January. to like February type of snowfall. And then
Hmm.
yeah, then we've had a lot of rain the past couple weeks. It's
Yeah,
been it's
same.
been it's been going from like rainy for 4 days to starting the starting to shine, and it's been like 50s, 60s, and then it's like, oh no, we're going right back down to 30s. But then we're gonna
Yep.
be back on the 50s for like
Yeah.
2 days.
So you're exactly where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, but yeah, no matter if it's the Midwest or the East Coast, it seems like we're just
Yep.
in that same. And I'm not even by like where I'm at. I'm like probably 2 hours from Chicago. So yeah, like I'm
Hmm.
not by the lake that I'm further from the Great Lakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I used to live in the Chicagoland area, yeah, it was a lot of that lakefront that you would get. Uh, regional regional weather talk is great.
Yep.
That
Hey
was
man, it's something we all deal with. You know what I mean? It's
oh yeah.
something that we have in common.
I can't wait for California to get the snow that we get. They would lose their mind.
Yeah.
Um, if you could collaborate with anyone, who would it be?
Well, it's another thing I spend a lot of time thinking about. Because what I want to do is obviously we want more collabs. Collabs are a huge driver nowadays of visibility on your music. And it's just something fun. It's awesome to have people that you admire, that you respect, that are super talented come in and put their stamp on your track. I'm definitely looking for more people to do that. So I'm always thinking about like there's a lot of people in the local scene, that I'd like to kind of do that with. Gina Fritz is one that she's a credible voice. Their songwriting is really great. They write songs that immediately you're just like if radio is still a thing, it would be like boom, that's on the radio, done. Like not even a question. They would be a fun one. My buddies in Hell Beach are another one that like they're like more of like a power pop punk type band,
Hmm.
but just super fun. Very energy band. Like you get in a room and you can't help but be jumping up and down and bouncing along with the music and singing the words. And they're just the realest, nicest people. So those would be a couple big ones from the local scene. Um, if I had to go, obviously famous. I mean, for me, Alexis on Fire would be huge. Thursday would be huge. Those are two of my favorites. Um, that just and I know Jeff Rickley's been collabing with some people, so that's maybe something we could explore. Um, but yeah, that would be super fun. That would be a huge milestone for us if we could
No
get
Mike Shinoda on the track?
I'm not saying no. I mean, again, we're still stretching those muscles as far as what we write. We do have a couple other tracks that are similar vein that we're developing. That we definitely want to get animatronic back on another track, because he just fits so well with our stuff. Like I was joking, half joking at one point, but it's always almost like, do we just add him to the band? Like, is that it? Can we just get him in the, that's where we go with it because it turned out
It'd
so great.
it'd be a side project.
Yeah, for real. So there'll definitely be something else in the works with him for us. But yeah, we're always trying to find new unique ways to get people on the tracks. It's one of the things I struggle with the most probably is hearing other people's voices on our music. Just because I'm so used to hearing my own and trying to imagine it and write for other people's voices is a little bit difficult for me. But it's definitely something we gotta try to get going more because there's so many good talented people that could easily come in and help propel our music to even greater heights.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. Um, what would be your Mount Rushmore of rock? Now, I we can switch it to just mute like of music in general, or if you want to stick to rock, we can do that as well. I've
Yeah. Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's somewhat of a tough one, because for me, I mean, I'll just go for me, my listening style, whatever. I listen to pretty much everything. The only thing I really don't do is country. Like, there's
same.
a very small amount of country that I can respect it for what it is. I'm not going to be going and putting it on, and listen to it in my spare time. But part of being a musician is to challenge your own beliefs and your own sort of interests and as far as music goes. So I've spent a lot of time, listening, at least listening to new bands, pop acts, and hip hop stuff, and all kinds of different genres. Excuse me, to try to broaden the scope of like my interests and just hear different things in the music. Um, but I mean, we get back to what I always go back to is bands that sort of push the boundaries and that can bring many different genres into one. I mean, I think the longevity they've had, for me, Coheed is a huge one. If I'm thinking about somebody who, like a band who I just almost no matter what, like I could listen to, like they have music for almost any vibe, any emotion, any point you pick something throughout their career and you're going to enjoy it. Um, Coheed, I know a lot of people are crazy on it. Obviously, they're taking over the world, but Sleep Token, I mean, it's
Hmm.
hard to ignore them. Um, my wife is like the an ultimate just super fan. I really really enjoy their music. I mean, Caramel is one of the best things that I think I've ever listened to. Just the writing wise, the way that they build, the way that they echo previous parts of the music. It's very hard to ignore the talent that they have. Whether or not you like their music, like people who don't respect them for what they do, they're just tripping. Like that's all I could say. It is
No,
tripping.
Sleep
Like
Sleep Token is a fucking great band. Like
yeah.
I listen to them personally. Like outside of like them having like a black lead on vocals, I'm just like their whole like sound is amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, like it's crazy, and just a lot of people like to hate, and that's what they
Hmm.
do. And kind of, I like to, I just got to ignore that. but,
People,
regardless, their talent's incredible.
yeah,
Um,
people just hate to hate and just like
yeah,
it's some good music. Shut up.
yep, yep. Um, Man, it's like, yeah. I mean, I guess in more broad spectrum, as far as influential, Foo Fighters
Yes.
say what you want about Foo Fighters, but again, they know how to write songs. They appeal to such a broad variety of people.
Hmm.
That it's almost hard to not enjoy some of their music, if not all of it. So I really love, kind of their whole discography, all this they've done throughout throughout history. And they've been one of those bands that like has, overall done it fairly quietly.
Hmm.
They don't make waves. They're not beefing with people. They're not, doing all these shenanigans that, it's
Uh,
just
I
extra.
mean,
Well, I
we,
mean, recently Dave
yeah,
Grohl,
yeah.
yes, that was not, not the news that you want to see
No.
by any means. But previous to that, like they were one of the more respectable acts in rock. Um, I mean, and then it's hard to do a Rushmore, but again, for me right now, Spirit Box is another one where I'm just like all in. Their newest album is amazing. Just the again, you talk about progression. Bring it back to that where if you see the progression through the bands, where they are now is it's very very familiar. But it's just evolved. They figured it out. They figured out how to create the most near perfect versions of their music, and obviously hopefully they'll keep getting better and better. But the new album's incredible. Super stoked on their stuff. Going to see them this weekend, so that'll be very fun.
Nice.
So those are definitely big ones for me. I mean, they're not, you got Linkin Park there. You've got so many other bands, as far as influence and just longevity, and popularity. But personally, those are the ones that I kind of listen to the most, I would say.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a great Mount Rushmore right there for sure. Like Foo Fighters is up there with me. Like
And again, there's so many bands. There's so many
yeah.
bands that you can put up there. You know what I mean? If I had my absolute perfect, my Mount Rushmore would have like 30 faces on it. You know what I mean? Like it'd be 30 names up there, whatever. Like, but
Yeah, I mean this is one of the questions I love asking because again, it's that music discussion, but also it is so hard to just pick just like four people to put up there.
yeah,
But again, it's
yeah,
it's everybody's personal list. Like
right.
I got Chris Cornell on mine.
Oh,
I got Metallica. I got I think I got to put Pink Floyd up there,
mhm.
and then I don't even know for my fourth one because it always changes. It always
Right.
changes.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. It's decades. You're talking you can
Yeah,
go through all the different decades and the different genres, and it'll change kind of throughout those. But
yeah. Because I think the last time I think I put Pearl Jam up there,
mhm.
and just like I love Pearl Jam, but what I don't know. I got to come up with like a
Yeah,
definitive
yeah.
like
Yeah,
fourth.
it's you got to do a March Madness for to find out your final
I
rankings there.
yeah, for sure. What has been your favorite place to perform, and where would you like to perform?
Yeah. So far, favorite place to perform. Just scrolling through, trying to remind myself where we've played so far. Um, well, we just as far as sound, we just played Wally's a few weeks back at the end of March. We got to open for Until I Wake, which was really fun. It's our biggest show, to date since we started playing again. So that one was fun because they had the best sound system. Like it just comes down to equipment for this particular pick, but we could actually everybody could hear themselves very well. So nobody was straining to hear what they're doing. Nobody, like me especially. A lot of local venues, it's tough because the rooms are kind of small and
Yeah,
there's just a lot of frequency from the instruments on stage, so you can't always hear yourself the best. And sometimes when you can't hear, you're gonna push a little bit more to compensate, and then it doesn't always help your voice the best. So to be able to get up there and like not have to really, I felt pretty effortless, singing and doing all my screams for, we only had a shorter set. We had about 25 minutes, but, to be able to do that finally, and not be like, wait, where's the note? Like, can't hear myself in the mix. That was a lot of fun. So that's definitely so far favorite place as far as sound. Ambiance, the favorite place that we've played, and we're going to be playing again tomorrow night. This place called Stone Church in Newmarket, New Hampshire. They've been around forever. There's been tons of bands that have come through there, like Aerosmith's played there back in the day. I think they had like Grateful Dead came through there like way back in the day.
wow.
Just so yeah, like their history is huge. It's a very one of the most well known spots in New Hampshire. So that's always a fun place to play. And then for us, one of the places that we want to play, I mean, there's tons of them, but hopefully we're going to get the chance soon, is the Palladium in Worcester. That's one of the biggest places for, local music, local heavy music, and it has been, for us growing up. So to be able to, we, went to a lot of shows there, saw a lot of good bands there, in our younger years. So being able to get on a show there, and have that experience would be really cool.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Um,
obviously, we want to be doing arenas and shit,
yeah.
but
Anywhere like internationally you would like to go?
yeah. I mean, internationally, I mean, obviously Wembley.
Mm.
We're not filling that probably ever in our lifetime. I'm not even
I
going to
mean,
consider that.
you get big
But
enough. You get big
there's
enough.
the I forget. I think it's like the Oni Theater or something is the smaller venue at Wembley.
Mm,
Sleep Token played that a couple of years back. That was their first like big sellout. It's like a 10 or 12,000 cap, and they
mm.
sold that out, and that was huge for them. So like that would be an example of somewhere that we want to play internationally for sure. And another one locally. So the Hampton Beach Ballroom Casino in Hampton, New Hampshire would be another one where I've been to so many shows there. So to be able to play there would be really sick too.
Oh yeah. All right, and final question, because yeah,
What you got? What you got?
well, because have you guys like toured outside of New Hampshire?
We haven't yet. We are about to. So with the EP release coming up the first weekend second weekend in May, technically, but May 9th. So we're doing a hometown show at the Shaskini Manchester for the EP release. And then we've got our first two, our second and third out of state shows. We have played one out of state show before.
Uh,
We played the Jungle down in Cambridge last year.
mm,
But we are going to be playing one show over at Ralph's Rock Diner in Worcester, which is another one of the local venues. That's a big, big holdout for that area on May 10th. And then May 11th, we're going to be in Lowell at Thirsty First Brewing. So we're doing a little weekender to celebrate the EP release.
hell yeah. Well then, I guess I'll ask this. Where is your favorite place to get food?
Oh boy.
Because I usually ask like whether you're at home or you're on tour, or
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess like pretty sure you've traveled to like different states and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we
So
do. My wife and I do a fair amount of travel when we can.
yeah.
So,
So
um,
where has been your favorite place for food?
yeah. Oh boy. Um,
Now
so for
we can do it in a section where it's like
yeah,
local stuff, and then
yeah.
when you've gone out.
If we're going super local, I live in Dover, New Hampshire. Our spot that we're there, every other week, sometimes twice a week. Sonny's Tavern is the best place in Dover. Um, on the seacoast, there's a Japanese restaurant called Nichinan that is really amazing. That's in Portsmouth. We love going there. As far as out of state, oh man, trying to think of. It's hard to keep track sometimes. All
This
the places
question
we've
is the
been.
usual stumper.
Yeah. One of the best places that I've eaten in the country. There's this really sick in San Diego. If anybody's in San Diego area listening or they get a chance to go there, there's this really awesome vegan metal bar called Kindred. And if you get a chance to go, cocktails are insane. My wife is and has gluten and dairy sensitivities, so she cannot eat gluten or dairy. So this perfect place is perfect. She can eat pretty much anything on the menu, and they're playing like death metal, doom metal, like
Oh,
over the radio, like 24/7. So
where is this at?
super.
San
It's
Diego?
in San Diego. Yeah, super cool place, dude. Highly recommend. Food's amazing. They've got a sister bar called Mothership that is a like a speakeasy vibe. It's a tiki bar, and it's like set on an alien planet. So,
That, that is elaborate.
oh yeah, there's some really cool stuff out that way. One other shout out I should give is if anybody's going to Joshua Tree out in 29 Palms, there's a place called Kitchen in the Desert that is super cool. It's outdoor, just kind of like sandy patio pit vibe. They every once in a while there's a guy who owns like this record store next door, and they do it like I think they do it once a week, but he'll come and spin just the wildest like set list of music that you'll ever hear, but it fits the vibe so perfectly. And the food's amazing, drinks are amazing. So we'll leave it there. Those are my shout outs.
Hell yeah, that's some very unique places, man.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a vegan metal.
Yep. Yep.
I'm about to put some people onto that one, man. That is
Definitely. Definitely. Great people, great establishment. Show them some love.
hell yeah. All right, man. I appreciate you doing the interview with me. Uh, let people know where they can find you, and of course, show what you got coming up.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I mean, we are House Lights. You can find us at House Lights on IG, on Facebook. That's where we're the most active. We do have a TikTok, but we're old, so we don't really get on it much. We're still trying to figure that out. Kind of a necessary part of the social promotion. So
Yeah.
we definitely got to get on that. Yeah, we've got tons of shows coming up. Most of them are going to be obviously out in New England. But I would say hopefully in 26, we'll be looking at realistically trying to get out to the Midwest. I have a decent amount of connections there already from my booking days and just from other bands in the area up here that have been out that way. So I'll be sure to hit you up if we're coming through.
Hell yeah.
And if anybody back in New England's listening to this, come on out to the shows we got coming up. May, like I said, May 9th, Shasky, New Manchester. May 10th, Ralph's Rock Diner in Worcester. May 11th, Thirsty First in Lowell. And then we've got one show at New Hampshire Underground on 5/23 with Egg. And 5:30, we're back at Wally's. We're opening for Paper Cut, who is a Linkin Park cover band. So we're super stoked for all of these shows and can't wait to see you at them.
Hell yeah. Well, make sure you follow them on all social media platforms and make sure you look out for those dates. All right. Appreciate you, Sam.
Yeah, appreciate you too, man. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Live long and rock on. We out of here.